Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. I actually remembered today was Wednesday this time. I think we're going to wrap up this series on growing your survival herb garden today. And, well, as I was nearing the end of writing this book, people kept asking me, I got several questions. What are your top 10 or 12 herbs that I would consider essential to have on hand? So I resisted for a while because honestly, that's not the way I do things. I recommend people make a list of their common health concerns and then tailor, the herbs to their own needs. But I thought about it, and um, yeah, and honestly, I source so many herbs in the wild. I don't try to grow everything in the garden. Now, the book is written with the person in mind that has to figure out how to grow something, maybe in an HOA, a POA, or even a window box. That's the point of this book. Someone who's really not doesn't have my lifestyle. My lifestyle is I get a lot from the wild in terms of food and medicinal herbs and everything. But not everyone lives out in the middle of a national forest. I mean, a lot of people live in town. So I decided, yeah, I will do this. What are the essentials? Well, for me, um, mullein and plantain would certainly be on that list. But those are herbs I've never tried to grow. I mean, they're just so commonly abundant. But so anyway, okay, let me get to the point. I reached out to my friends at the Grow Network. Now, if you haven't checked out the Grow Network, you probably want to do so. It's Marjorie Wildcraft's site. If you're a prepper, you have probably heard of Marjorie. The Grow Network is not a prepper network per se, but just about everybody on there has a prepper lifestyle. And I'm one of the admins of the site. So I answer a lot of questions. I talk with a lot of people. There are several professional herbalists that are on there. Any kind of advice you need about growing stuff, I mean, the gardening, the Grow Network's really a fantastic resource. And, go to the forums. And like I said, I'm one of the admins of the forums. So it's a real easy way to get in touch with me if you have a question. Well, um, I asked several of the herbalists, and Tori is a professional clinical herbalist in Canada, and her herbs are going to be specific to Canada. She said, obviously this is really area specific as to what I have to grow in my garden. I don't usually grow things that are abundant enough that I harvest in the wild. So, and like me, I mean, we have actually, our environments are kind of similar. The mountains of North Carolina and Western Canada are not that different. Ditto, the Catskills up in New York. I mean, they just get more snow. But for her, this is her list of essential herbs. Calendula. Calendula, absolutely great. I mean, anti-inflammatory, good for the skin. Comfrey, also known as knit bone. I mean, it's great for healing wounds and, well, I mean, great for arthritis and such. Bone set, that's eupatorium, great for lowering fevers. Elecampane, good for the lungs. Gentian, good for digestion and the liver. Valerian, an excellent sedative herb. And she likes California poppy, which is really good for pain. All these, we've discussed in previous shows, so I'm not going into a lot of detail here. Horseradish, really good for congestion. Garlic, of course, good for immune support, heart health, just about everything, cholesterol, etc. Marshmallow, excellent as a poultice for wounds, for rashes, but also really good for the digestive system, soothing an upset stomach. And lemon balm, I'd say the same thing about that. Lemon balm is also slightly sedative. And motherwort, which is an excellent women's herb. It is just very supportive, not to be used by pregnant women. But anyway, those were her essentials. She said, well, that's 12, and there are many other culinary herbs that one should not be without. I would highly recommend parsley, thyme, rosemary, oregano, sage, and mints. I agree completely. She also said arnica and St. John's wort are two I wouldn't be without, but they grow fairly prolifically where I live. Absolutely. Great, well, for so many reasons. I mean, arnica is just like the go-to herb for bruising and blunt force trauma. St. John's wort has good. It's antiviral. It's good for mood support. It helps with serotonin. And also an excellent wound herb or skin irritation herb. And then she says, I have some others too, but they're not considered safe and shouldn't be used by anyone but a very experienced herbalist. I have some in that category as well. And we haven't discussed them, and I have given you strong warnings against using, say, monk's hood or wolfsbane, datura. Those are very dangerous herbs, incredibly poisonous herbs. Lori, also in Canada, she's in zone 3, so it's much colder, actually. She says, I'm a big fan of foraged medicinal plants, and for me, plantain is top, and chickweed is next in line. I've told you how to grow both of those. And yeah, those are, well, plantain's one I would say essential. Chickweed is nice to have. Comfrey, we discussed mints, stinging nettle, lemon balm, hawthorn, elderberry, juniperberry. I mean, that's a medicine cabinet right there. I mean, stinging nettle is just fantastic for allergies. It's very nutritious. Already mentioned lemon balm. Hawthorn is really helps with heart issues. Elderberry for immune system. Juniper berry for immune and lung issues. And those are great. She says, I also think of my heritage chickens and herbs that would be beneficial to them. So in addition to the above, and chickweed obviously is great for chickens, she would include thyme, holy basil, sage, oregano, chilies, and garlic. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And she says, of course, there are more, but I'd better stop as you've already got a baker's dozen from me. Now, totally different environment, my friend Jody in Australia. She says, I'm going to list a few that are easy to grow in my area and produce a lot of plant material. I think she's in Western Australia, if I remember correctly. Comfrey, calendula, ginger and garlic, turmeric, dandelion, rosemary, and lemon balm, chilies, parsley, sage, mint, and thyme. And she says St. John's wort doesn't grow in my area, but I always have it in my herbal supplies. Absolutely. Marge in Washington, Zone 8B, said, what I grow is calendula. Well, it grows itself, actually. She says, I have thyme, basil, oregano, and a sunny windowsill. In the garden besides calendula, I have rosemary, comfrey, motherwort, growing for several years. Of the garden ones, I use rosemary and calendula the most. And of course, garlic. It always seems more of a basic food than an herb. Most everything else I gather from the wild or get from the grocery store fresh. Mary Linda Biddle in Missouri, 5B. That's same as my zone, actually, 5B. A hawthorn tree, a wild rose hedge would be excellent, but here are my 12 based on what I like to have on hand. Elderberry, comfrey, calendula, St. John's wort, elecampane, motherwort, lavender, parsley, lemon balm, peppermint, marshmallow, and chamomile. You're seeing a lot of crossover. We use a lot of the same herbs, so I mean, you're going to probably end up with about 24 essentials from this list, but I mean, like everybody's saying these essential herbs are essentially essential for all of us. Now, the only thing I don't use motherwort because I'm a guy, but these so far have all been women. In fact, every one of them so far. She said, culinary herbs, consider them as a second tier because you can get them at the grocery store if you need them fast or you don't have them growing. I grow parsley for blood pressure issues and don't really use it otherwise. And you know me, I put parsley in everything. It's like my go-to culinary herb. She also uses rosemary, thyme, basil, and sage and grows them in her garden. And she says dandelion and plantain grow all over the place here. So again, a plug for dandelion and plantain. Nick Samanda said, I like these 12. Lemon balm, catnip. That's one people haven't mentioned before, but it's, yes, very good. Excellent sedative herb. Sheep sorrel, one of my favorite wild edibles. I mean, I'd never grown sheep sorrel, but I use it a ton. and it's quite astringent, and it helps with diarrhea, and it's a lot of vitamin C in it. It's good. Yarrow, no one had mentioned yarrow before, and absolutely, now yarrow grows wild all over my yard, so I don't have to propagate it, but that is like the go-to for stopping bleeding. Also good for diarrhea and such. Comfrey and oregano, thyme, horsetail. That's another one nobody had mentioned. Horsetail is equisetum, and I've done a program on that. You can back up and listen to it. Excellent for the joints, the bones, the skin. Really good plant. Bee balm is in the mint family. That's Monarda. That's one nobody had mentioned before. It grows, again, for me, it grows wild. But as I think I did a whole episode on it, it is one of the prettiest flowers you will ever see. And it has many medicinal uses. Really great for fevers, burns, and so many things. Rosemary, lavender, and lamb's quarters. She mentions that one. We just did a show on that a couple weeks ago. Tina Rock in New Jersey said, my top herbs that I grow to have on hand when needed are nettles, comfrey, plantain, calendula and yarrow, echinacea. Echinacea is, well, yeah, I've done a whole show on it. I don't need to tell you a lot about it. I guess you're getting the idea now. But echinacea is like the go-to for immune support, and it propagates hyaluronic acid, so it's wonderful to have on hand for snake bites and venomous spiders that have a necrotizing, a tissue-destroying. Like the brown recluse and the black widow are both pretty common in North Carolina, so I think echinacea is really good to have on hand. Yeah, and we do have poisonous snakes too. We have copperheads mainly, but we get rattlesnakes. Yeah, I mean, I just live a little too high for rattlesnakes. It's too cold for them. Yeah, I've told you the story before about how the state brought in like thousands of rattlesnakes and released them, saying they were an endangered species. And they put them out on public trails where they were biting people and horses, and then they all froze to death that winter. Yeah, that's government for you. Seriously. I don't know if that was the state or the feds. That could have been the feds, but I mean that's a perfect example of why we need to shrink the size and scope of government. They're stupid people that spend our money on stupid things, for the most part. For the most part, I mean, I think you could probably cut 90% of government programs and agencies and employees, and nobody even noticed the difference. But, whatever. So she also says peppermint, violet. We did a program on that. Good for wounds, good for a lot of things. Has an aspirin, salicin quality, good for lowering fevers. Yeah, it's a good one to have on hand. Again, it's wild for me, so I don't worry about that. Garlic, onions, and habanero peppers. Well, she says she makes fire cider from garlic, onions, and habanero peppers. Wonderful. We talked about fire cider probably a year ago, so go back to Herbal Medicine for Preppers and find that episode. Yeah, that's a good one. Elderberry, red clover, astragalus. Now, that's one I don't know that I mentioned in this book. It is a good adaptogen. Very good herb to have on hand and very easy to grow. Oat straw, burdock, parsley. No, I think I mentioned astragalus under adaptogens. Maybe I did. Yeah, I think there was a show on that one too. Oat straw, burdock, parsley, catnip, motherwort. Again, I'm starting to see these patterns, right? Artemisia annua. That is Sweet Annie. That is an excellent antiviral member of the wormwood family. Marigolds, which she says she loves to eat the flowers to support her eyesight. St. John's wort and Prunella vulgaris. Let's see. Oh, Gelanta in Austria. So let's go to a completely different part of the world, right? I grow many, more than 12, but I try to prioritize raspberry and blackberry for fruit and mainly for leaves. I collect a lot as their basis of most of my herbal mixtures. The leaves are used as house tea for all ages. Also rosemary, sage, savory oregano, thyme, calendula, horseradish, catnip, lemon balm, dill, caraway, and fennel. Such great herbs for digestion. They will settle an upset stomach. They help with diarrhea. They help with flatulence, the whole bit. And all kinds of mints. And there are many more. I cannot imagine not having lime blossoms. That's what they call linden or basswood in Europe. Good sedative, relaxing tea made from those flowers helps with sleep. St. John's wort, dandelions, stinging nettles, ground elder, and elderflower. Now, ground elder is one I don't think we